Hello, hi there, and welcome back to lesson 3. So today we are going to be doing some stippling motion. So we basically have learned all the basic of stippling motif, and today we're going to put it to test. So we're going to do a random hole all over stippling motif on this piece of quilt sandwich. So the first thing I want to do is actually I want to do the frame again. So this time I didn't actually mark it with the chalk. So what I'm going to be doing is eyeballing it. So this is starting, so I'm going to be doing the regular things, bringing up the bottom thread up and putting that up and holding onto those two threads before I secure some stitches. So I'm going to be doing that, securing some stitches, and I'm going to be eyeballing the frame. So as you can see here, I'm just going to be seeing that about a 1/4 inch away from my foot, and I'm just going to eyeball that and just maintain that thing. And I am going to be moving my hands in the frame just as we did before, but this time because there's no line, I am just going to eyeball that and make sure that it's actually keeping straight. Now it doesn't have to be perfect. Remember that this is free motion quilting. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this gives you a bit of practice. If you want to do a straight line without a guideline, this can be a good practice for you to do that. Now as I reach to the end, I'm going to pivot through. I'm going to pivot through so that again the same thing is going to leave that 1/4 inch away from my quilting foot. So I'm just going to finish that off all the way around. As I do this, I am also practicing, the speed of my quilting and also the feel of moving the quilt again. So each practice you want to go ahead and see where you can improve, and that way your practice is going to be useful. Now, we are going to be stopping there, and I'm going to be doing all this random motion. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is the first U, and then after that I'm going to try and vary the direction of these U's so that we get a random stippling motion motif. So here I go with the first U, and then I can stop and think first, see? And I'm going to be doing another U in the same direction and a horizontal one, and then a bit of curve, and this adds to the randomness. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that and see that I'm coming back, always coming back to that instead of just going horizontally towards the end. Now this will create more randomness. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be filling up this area first instead of filling up one row by row. So this will create that more randomness in a whole view. So if you look at it from far, you don't see it like from one just horizontal line. Instead, you see this all random squiggly all across the quilt. So I'm going to be covering an area in a triangle mode, so you can see that I've covered this corner, and I stop every now and then to see where I'm going and to put that vision in my head so that my hand will be moving towards the parts where I have vision to be moving at. So now you can see I have maintained as well the spaces in between these stitches about a 1/4 inch again from my foot, so I'm eyeballing that. So each of the stitches would be about 1/4 inch. It might be smaller, it might be bigger, but most of it would be around the same size. So that will keep maintaining the same scale, and that will maintain that random motif of free motion quilting, stippling, but also keeping that scale. So as you can see, I stop every now and then and have a look at my motif, and I'm going to be looking at where I'm heading and also seeing the past things. So I see that I'm doing a bit more of a vertical bump, but normally I would just maintain that amount of bump to be no more than 2 or 3 the most, and then I start changing direction. So I'm going to do 2 bumps here, and then I'm going to start changing direction, and then another 2 bumps in the same direction, and then changing direction. So basically that's how you get that random kind of feel. Now I'm seeing that I have a small space here, and I don't want to get stuck in there, so I'm planning my way out already before I'm actually moving. So it's important for you to stop and think before you actually go forward. Don't worry about, having to stop so often. It's actually quite good. You just have to practice to, make the movement from stop to moving again as smooth as possible. So you want to go ahead and practice that a lot. So I'm doing 2 bumps going vertical. Now I'm changing direction. So this will create that randomness. Again, I'm going to see where I'm heading. So I'm going to be covering this area here, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not getting stuck in there. So I'm going to be doing a motif that makes sure that I can come back out easily. So you can see there, you can see that I'm not keeping myself to one type of directions. I can also turn around my quilts as I wish to, and this depends on which way you are comfortable with. So you want to go ahead and, stop and think whether this is comfortable or not, and you can just turn around and pivot your quilt so that you get the right one that is actually comfortable for you to work with. Now again, I'm still maintaining that distance of 1/4 inch away from my quilting foot. Now you can see that I move diagonally up and down, and that won't really show as much. Again, I'm still maintaining that 2 bumps, and then I'm changing direction. So that is also one type of making it random. So you can actually go diagonally instead of just horizontal or to the bottom. Now there are some spaces that are smaller than the 1/4 inch away from my foot, but it doesn't matter because that creates all this variation. So I'm going to go ahead and see I have a small space there. I'm going to be covering that with a couple of more bumps, and I'm going to be stopping again to see where I am actually heading towards. So I'm just going to keep going and filling up the space as I go, doing 2 bumps vertical and then 2 bumps on the horizontal side, just to make sure I'm varying all the directions of my bumps or these U-turns. So now I'm pivoting my quilt because now I can see much clearer where are the spaces that I haven't filled up yet. So I can see that I haven't filled up these top spaces here, which was the top at the beginning. Now I'm going to try and fill that up so that I can come back out easily from there. So I'm leaving that top space there so that I can actually go back. So I'm stopping every now and then just to make sure I get that smooth variation. Now to make a little bit of variation, instead of just going up and down the bump through that edges there, I've actually created a bit of a curved ones as well. And now I'm just filling up the other areas until I'm going to be finishing at the other corner. So now I'm trying to actually finish back all these areas at these corners. So I have a little bit more to go, so I'm just going to go ahead and just fill that up. And you can do the same and have a good practice on this. Now if you need more practice than 1 quilt sandwich, you can go ahead and practice on 2 quilt sandwiches because we have made some extra as well. So now I'm actually turning my quilt so that the bottom part now is actually the top part, because now I can see better of my vision of where to go. So you have to turn your quilt around just to get comfortable and also to see where you're heading towards. So I'm just going to fill that all this area up, and I'm going to finish at the other corners. And see this small space, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to be doing so that I can actually come out of it without getting stuck in the middle. So you have to get that figured out as you go, or you can stop and think about it first, put it in your mind, and your finger or your hand will be moving towards the motion that you need. So now I'm ending at this corner, and I'm just stopping and just do a double stitch there, and we're done with this quilt sandwich, which is the random free motion quilting stippling motif. So I hope you go ahead and try that, and I'll see you in the next lesson.